that you've run across in Beachbody or in life that are just amazing stories. You know, I know people who have lost 180 pounds, 160 pounds, people who have overcome adversity. You know, and you hear that from me, you're like, yeah, whatever. You know, but when you hear it straight from the horse's mouth, it really is a whole different thing. So, I'd like to introduce Greg, let him tell his story.
Thank you. So, the minor goal, I guess, that initially got me to where I am. I lost 65 pounds 4 years ago. So I've kept up going for 4 years. Alright, so what happened was, when I was 9, I realized I could play baseball. And what happened? So, when I was 3, I survived a ruptured brain aneurysm and a stroke. So my right side is actually permanently damaged with physical and neurological disabilities. Nobody can tell me. Because initially, after the surgery, my parents were approached by my doctors, and they were given the option of, look, we can either let him live with his disability, let it settle, and just let him not suffer, or we can push through it. And honestly, if they didn't push me through it, I'd be suffering a lot more than I am right now. Because what happens with any limitation, because really I'm no different than you, and the reason I say that is because if you and I were to switch bodies, even though you function perfectly normal in yours, the same way I function perfectly normal in mine, we switch bodies, we would both be paralyzed. Because limitations are individual. Whatever limitations you have, whether it's you need glasses, you have asthma, or whatever, it's really no different than what I live with because it's an individual challenge. So what happened with me was, when I was 9, my therapist was done with me. She said I plateaued and that it was up to me. So she got me in a gym, and it was up to me. And the same thing that Derek told, whatever your limit is fantastic. Because even though I may be able to drop down and knock out a set of 100 push-ups, that's equivalent to probably your ability to do whatever your max is, because we're both pushing ourselves to our equal limits. Now, what happened was, because of my disability, I can't use the right side of my body because of dexterity, fluidity, and motor control. So I realized that I could hold the glove with my left hand, with my right hand, throw the ball, and then slip my glove on my left hand, the same way Jim Abbott did. And got to the point where I almost went pro, but along the way, since I was 13, every select team I tried out for would not put me on the team. And it got to, and basically because of my disability, but after not making the first few teams, then their discrimination could logically be saying that I didn't have enough experience to play. So what I did instead, since I was 265 pounds, I went out and ran a quarter mile. That was all I could do one day. I was like, okay, I know I can do a quarter mile. So the next day went a little bit further, to the point where I kept compounding the same way that Derek just talked about. And even though after a week I was only at 3/4 mile, 3 months later I was running 5 miles a day. Got to the point where 5 miles a day, 6 days a week, dropped 65 pounds between May and December. My friend saw me, didn't even recognize me, and literally the first words out of his mouth were, "Greg, go run a marathon," which I did. So went out October, trained, and literally did the same thing. I knew I could run for an hour. Why can't I pace myself and run for 2 hours? Why can't I pace myself and run for 3 hours? Got to the point where I finished my first marathon in 3 hours, 46 minutes. So it's an 8-minute, 39-second mile for average. Qualified for Boston.
Wow.
So qualified for Boston, you have to run the Boston Marathon. Was on a 3 hour, 30-minute pace, 8-minute mile average Guy cuts me up. I was hugging the right side of the course the whole time because I know that one of my limitations with my disability is I don't have peripheral vision in my right eye. So I'm dealing with the crowd. Some guy, this overzealous 140-pound punk, slips in between me, cuts in too soon to the point where I half stride to avoid landing full force on a half stride, shocking my good leg. And at that point, have to shift more weight onto my disabled leg because I naturally compensate for my right leg by putting more weight on my left. Right leg locks up within a quarter mile, hobble medical station to medical station, and 330 gone. 330's gone. So I wind up getting across the finish line at 4:09. I'm beat up, down, depressed, and then my friend calls me, and she's like, "Greg, you did great." And I'm like, no, I lost my time. It was gone. And she's like, "Greg, you just finished first in your division." So even though I didn't hit my personal time, that's another aspect to working out, is shifting your perspective. Sure, maybe you didn't do this much, but you still did more than you did yesterday. And so even though I didn't hit my personal time that I wanted to, I really can't complain that I led the charge for every other disabled athlete out there. So, with that said, then I'm going to end this because we need to work out. And it's my cross training day, and I'm excited about this because I'm so busy. I love coming out here. And really the point is that whatever you do today, it may not be as much as you've been able to do maybe a week ago, a month ago, but if you're pushing yourself to your limit, or if you're having a great day and you're at your limit, if you know you can do 20 push-ups, and you've done it once, you've done it twice, what's stopping you from literally doing one more? And then if 21's your new max, and you come out next week, what's stopping you from doing 3 more? To the point where before you know it, you do 20 in your sleep, and you're doing 40, 50, no problem. So really it's all about perspective and building yourself on minute gains, because a year after the fact, you've blown the person that you were completely out of the water. So today is just the first start.